re-cue that. It dumped off and jumped back in. Music. Keep going. It jumped off and then jumped back in. Okay. Is she pushing you off, Charlie? Good morning. Pookie was in my lap and she decided she needed to be in the chair with the other dogs, and now poor Charlie is hanging on for dear life. So good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Spaniels weekend edition. It's been a busy morning here already. We've bathed 3 dogs this morning and just been low nuts. So, and then I had to run out and treat our miniature horse. Is still pretty gimpy, so he's still getting his Banamine twice a day as well as his herbs, and he's better than he was. He had his feet trimmed on Friday, but still got a little ways to go. He does this every year. It's a seasonal thing for him, so we'll just ride it out for a little bit longer. So I promised this morning that we would talk about traveling with your pets and travel anxiety and car sickness and how to deal with that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that. I would like to, first of all, give a shout out to Vincent James. And he is the composer of the Breakfast with Spaniels music, and he actually sent us 4 different versions, with barking, without barking, with a little bit of barking, and with barking just at the beginning and end. So we have lots of different ways we can play that. And Vincent is, along with his wife, the author of 99 Ways Music Changed My Life. And it interviews a lot of musicians, famous musicians, and talks about how their lives changed over the years. And they are now working on something that is happening, I believe, at the end of this month or the beginning of April, called World Music Day for Kids. And they have hundreds and hundreds of schools that have signed on for this World Music Day, where children all over the world will be singing and celebrating music at the same time. And I think it's just a really awesome goal. Vincent and his wife are from Philadelphia, so they're fairly local to us. They are in the mastermind group with Jack Canfield with us, and just really awesome people. So special shout out, and you might want to check out their stuff on Facebook. So, and I'm sure they have a website, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. So sorry, Vincent, I'll tag you in this and maybe you can give that to us. Okay, and also second advertisement for the day. Hugh and Charlie are going to be doing a Facebook Live at noon Eastern Time today. If you're not friends with Hugh Grant, it's H-U-E Grant. You can check his page. I think it's set for public. You can see what he and Charlie have to say. They're helping someone celebrate something special. So you can tune into that. Okay, so let's talk about, I also have a newsletter coming out this week on pain management. So if you're on my newsletter list, you'll get that. I think it's going out Tuesday. Talks about a lot of different ways that we can manage pain, both medically, traditionally, and alternatively, and with herbs and homeopathics and those sorts of things. Okay, and then later this week, I think I will talk about storm phobias and anxieties. We're having tons of tornadoes around our country, windstorms. It's March, comes in like a lion. Hopefully it's going to go out like a lamb. Today's a lion day. It's windy, and the wind chill's like 6 degrees. So, okay, so we'll talk about that later this week. And someone else asked me if I would talk about Vincent's website, www.lovesongs.com. Lovesongs.com. Okay, great. So somebody asked me if I would talk about how you deal with devastating news. Whatever that devastating news is surrounding your pet, how do you cope? How do you move forward? So we'll talk about that later this week as well. Yes, Pookie is tired after her bath that just did her in. Okay. They have a different sitting order on weekends. Yeah, I don't know why. Okay, so let's talk about travel anxiety. How do we make our pets less anxious when we travel? And this really actually goes for kitty cats as well as dogs. When I first started in practice, I adopted a little 6-week-old kitten who had his pelvis and hind legs crushed by a Doberman. He was this big, 6 weeks old. And the farmer brought him in to be euthanized, and it was my first day back from my honeymoon, and I felt really bad, and I was crying, and I didn't want to euthanize the kitty, so the guy gave me $20, and I took the kitten and put him in a cage in the back and went to see appointments, and my boss, who was a pretty nice guy, he said, well, why don't you fix that kitten up and take him home? I said, I've never owned a cat. I don't know anything about cats, but I guess I should learn. And I called my husband and said, I'm going to bring home a kitten, and he said, no. And I think I called him 6 or 7 times and said, no, I really need to bring home this kitten. No. I think we need a cat. No. I really, really, really want to have a cat. No. And at the end of the day, I brought home the little kitten with his whole hind end in a cast. And he was sitting on the sofa when my new husband walked in. And he said, oh, I see how this marriage is going to go. Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, the little kitty did great, and we had a Doberman. So, I sat him on the sofa, and the Doberman walked up, and his little eyeballs went, oh my God, I'm going to be eaten. But because that little kitten had to go back and forth to work with me, I had to change his casts literally every week because he was growing so rapidly. And that was back in the days where we still used plaster casts, so what a mess. But he went back and forth to work with me almost every day, and so he just learned to sit on the front seat and travel just like a dog would. I mean, he just thought that was normal to get in the car every day. So he was really awesome. And if you start really early with your pets, that's the easiest way to train them to ride in cars. We have been extremely fortunate. These are all puppy mill rescues, and literally they just get in the car and go. And sometimes their first trip when they're being rescued from a puppy mill is about a 20-hour drive cross country, and it's just kind of like, okay, this is what we're doing next. So we're really lucky. Our guys love to ride in the car. They run out to the driveway and want to get in the car. I never worry about them running away if they get out in the driveway, because all they're going to do is swarm the car because they want to go for a ride. And it's funny, a lot of people, if their dog gets out, what they do is they drive down the road and open the door, and the dog will jump in, because most dogs just love to go for a ride with their owners. So, okay, so how, if we have a pet who is fearful in the car, how do we desensitize them? This can be a fairly long process, and there are things that you can use to help. So we talked about flower essences earlier this week. Certainly the Safe Journey flower essence is really good for decreasing the anxiety and making them feel more confident about the process. You can also use Homeopet's homeopathic product called Travel Anxiety. Both of them are liquids. You just put a few drops in the mouth, and you can start, before you're going to go for the drive. And give them a couple of doses, and that will at least help set the stage for success. If you have a pet who is extremely nauseous and there's no way you're going to get to the corner without them vomiting, you can use the new drug called Serenio, which is meropitant. It's actually in the antihistamine family. It works really well for nausea, and sometimes we do have to resort to that, particularly if somebody has to take their pet on a long trip and the dog gets car sick as soon as they're leaving the driveway, and they don't have time to desensitize their pets. So that is something that you can use, but it's a short-term fix. You don't want to have to use that every time you want to take your pet in the car. So you need to desensitize them. For some pets, the minute you put them in the car, you don't even have to turn it on. They're already shaking, they're drooling, they're nauseous, they're upset. Those are the kids you just have to take a book and go sit in the car and read. Take some treats, make it a positive experience. Just sit in the driveway. Roll the windows down, let everybody be comfortable. If you have a pet who's comfortable in the car, put them in the car with you. Everybody just hang out. You might have to do that a couple times a day, 5 minutes at a time. You might have to do that for a couple of weeks if you have a pet who's really, really anxious. If you want your pet to travel in a crate in the car, make sure that they've already been trained to the crate not in the car, so that when you put them in the crate in the car, they already feel like it's a safe haven. If they're going to ride in a harness with a seatbelt, make sure they're comfortable wearing that harness before you put them in the car with the harness on. So whatever their traveling situation is going to be in the car, when you're doing your desensitizing in the car, put them in the situation that they're going to be in, whether that's in the crate or in the harness. If they're going to have to travel in the back seat, put them in the back seat. If you need to sit in the back seat with them for those first few times, sit in the back seat with them, and then make sure that when you do start going somewhere with the car, that there's somebody back there with them, if that's what makes them comfortable to start. Once you get your pet comfortable, at least sitting in the non-moving car, your next step is to turn the car on. And you might have to turn the car on and sit in your driveway for 5 minutes. You might have to do it multiple times a day. You might have to do it for multiple weeks before you can ever move the car. Once your pet is comfortable with the car running in the driveway and not moving, you can go down the driveway and back. We have to do this in little teeny tiny baby steps. And I promise you, if you take the time to do this in the little tiny baby steps, even the most resistant pet will learn that this is an okay situation. But you have to reward them for being good and for settling in. And, if they have a favorite toy, a favorite blanket, a thunder shirt might help. Some of these pets like to feel swaddled. Part of their problem is they're feeling like they're hanging out and they're not feeling secure. So a thunder shirt wrapped on them might help make them more secure. Sometimes it's a sweater or a coat. You can spray a little lavender in the car. You can use a DAP diffuser or a feel away diffuser for the cats. Those are pheromone diffusers, or a pheromone collar. Something that will make them feel like, this is okay, I'm feeling good here. I would put very soft, soothing music on the radio for them. This is not the time to play heavy metal and rock. You need to have something very soothing at a low level. Half of ours are deaf, so we'd have to blare it. But you do need to make this the most inviting, warm situation that you possibly can for them. Once we get them used to scream with every stop at the traffic signal. So part of that is, and our guys will do it too, when a big truck goes barreling by us on the highway, very nerve-wracking for them. So you need to make sure that they're comfortable in the car to begin with, and go on, quiet streets. Now, what I would try to do with the Yorkie who screams at every stop, that would be one of those where I drive to the end of the driveway and stop. Turn around and come back. So you need to do lots of small, frequent stops. Part of it is when you're at the traffic stop, I have a hair in my eye. When they're at the traffic stop, they feel like they've arrived. And so sometimes it's the excitement of, oh boy, we're going to get out of the car, we're going to get out of the car. So we have a couple that do that. It's like, we're here. Shayna, she's one of those. Oh my God, when you get to where you're going, she's jumping up and down and screaming. They're all snoring. Screaming. And it's because she's excited to get out. So that's a different process that you have to desensitize. When you get to where you're going, don't get out right away. Reward them for hanging out in the car and being quiet and just being calm. So, have some little treats with you and reward them for not going crazy when you stop. Once they're calm, then you can quietly get them out of the car. And we have another one. Somebody's got gas. Which one of you? We have another one that as soon as she gets there, she jumps out of the car. This is Millie. She is so anxious. I think she's actually anxious in the car, but she rides very well in the car. But as soon as you get there, she needs to have a bowel movement. And she literally, if you don't get her out of the car, she'll be dropping it. I mean, she hits the ground and she squats. So, and that's her way of showing her anxiety. So they're all a little bit different. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And, until we learned that about Shayna, we'd get out of the car, we'd hook her on her leash, and we'd instantly go into wherever we were going. And she would instantly walk in the door and drop a present on the doorstep. So we have learned that we need to take time, just a minute, walk 3 feet away from the car, have a poop bag ready. So here's somebody, please put your dogs in a crate. I was in a horrific accident. If I had my Cavalier that day, she would have been dead. I agree. We travel with our dogs in crates. None of the seatbelts and harnesses have been shown by Consumer Reports to really be safe and really do the job that they're supposed to. And the problem is that with children, they're in a car seat and they're strapped in and we know exactly what position they're going to be in. With your dogs, they're sitting up, they're laying down, they're twisting around, and so we don't know how they're going to be. Now, with that said, if they're in a crate, make sure the crate is strapped in. You don't want the crate to become a projectile flying through the car. The other bad news is that, if they're in a crate and your car is crushed, the crate can also be crushed. And it can be difficult to extract them from that. But if your car is crushed, it's going to be difficult to extract all of you out of the crate, or out of the car. So, I'm not a big fan of the car seat belts. I'm a big fan of crating for our kids, and we have their crates really wedged in there usually. So safety in the car is a big thing, but having your pets not be anxious in the car is huge. Some of our pets don't like the vibration of the car. They don't like the vibrations of the big trucks passing by. Basically, you have to get them used to traveling on quiet roads. Then you move your way up to busier streets in town, and then finally move your way up to traveling on the highway. There's a lot of dogs that once you hit the smooth road of the highway, they're absolutely fine. Our little guy, George, wherever he is, he looks like he stuck his foot in an electric socket this morning. He had a bath and I haven't brushed him yet and his hair is all standing out. Okay. You distract me. So he's fine on the highway, but if we do a lot of twisty, turny roads, particularly if we're a half hour, 45 minutes into the trip, that's what does his stomach in. So when we hit the twisty, turny roads, I have to remind Hugh to drive really slow and smooth and not make it a roller coaster ride, because George is just not a fan of roller coasters and we're pretty much guaranteed to have a problem. When you travel with your pets, make sure that you have, particularly if you're going long distance, make sure that you have water, bottled water from home available with a water bowl. Make sure you have leashes and harnesses. Make sure they have identification or microchips, preferably both. If you have an accident and your dog or cat escapes from the car and they don't have identification, you have no hope of ever getting them back. So make sure they have identification. Make sure if you're going on a long trip that you have food or snacks from home. When we travel with the 2 kids for the expos, we always have some freeze-dried treats, freeze-dried food. We carry our own water with us and we have their bowls. I always have extra leashes because I'm a little crazy. Dr. Art's on the other side of the camera this morning. So somebody says if you have them up and looking out the window, they won't get sick. For some pets, that's true. For other pets, not true. I have a couple who like to be down very low where they can't see things. Myra was one of those who absolutely needed to be in a crate and was much better if her crate was high enough that she could see out the windows. Is the back harness better or the front one for their spine health? Again, if you have an accident, it's not going to be good any way you look at it. Something that is a wider harness that distributes the pressure, whether it's on the front or the back, is definitely going to be better than a narrow harness for sure. The same goes with collars. If you walk your dog on a leash with a collar, you're much better to have a wide collar and a wide leash because it distributes the pressure better. For walking, depends on what kind of problems your dog might have, which is better. I do like harnesses for walking more than collars, but it kind of depends on your pets and what issues they have. Certainly with the Cavaliers, we have so many with the SM. Kind of depends where their pain point is, what they're going to be better walking with. So, okay, that's off topic. So if you desensitize your pets and you use some things to help calm them. So whether that's the Safe Journey, the travel anxiety, a little bit of lavender, the pheromone diffusers, whatever it is, soft music, whatever it is, sometimes cool air coming through the vents or a cracked window so that there's cool air, sometimes that makes them a little bit less nauseous as well. If it gets too hot in the car, they're panting, that's going to increase their anxiety levels. And just remember that, if you're in a traditional car, you're getting blasted with the air conditioning in the front. If they're in the back, it's going to be warmer back there and they may not be as comfortable. So I always try to make sure that I have some vents that are going toward the back end for these guys. I'm always cold, so I get a blanket and they get the vents. Okay, I think that's about it for our travel anxiety today. So if you want to tune in to Hugh and Charlie at noon, I don't know what they're talking about. I have a little bit of an idea, but I'm not sure. They're always comical. So CBD for anxiety, sure, you could use CBD oil. It may or may not help, but certainly worth a try. The treatable CBD treats, ginger cookies for nausea, or a little bit of a ginger capsule. Ginger is very good. Peppermint is very good for nausea. So you could try those as well. Okay, I've got some writing to do today. Going to work on some blogs and newsletters, and maybe take the dogs for a walk even though it's cold. We went out yesterday. It was cold and windy. It was a short walk. Okay, everybody have a wonderful day, and tune in tomorrow, 8 a.m., our usual time. And we'll see which coffee mug is tomorrow. Today it was Shayna.